gentlemen. We got it started with the offensive line. A lot of premier players in those two groups. Perhaps someone that goes as high as the top 8 in Quentin Nelson. He and his teammate Mike McGlinchey dealing with some hamstring issues throughout the day, little tweaks here and there, but certainly they performed well. Why don't we get to maybe an individual, each of you, that impressed each of you, Bucky? Somebody that just stood out in that offensive line group.
This will make MJD happy. How about Colton Miller from UCLA? He is the ultimate decathlete when you look at what he was able to do at this combine. Outstanding performance, 10-1 broad jump. We saw him run sub 540. The athleticism, the movement skills, all those things suggest that he could be a really good player in time. Now you have to go back and look at the tape, but everything that he did today will excite and pique the interest of offensive line coaches looking for an edge blocker.
All right, Colton Miller for you, Buck. How about you, Lance?
I'm going to go with Desmond Harrison out of West Georgia. I knew watching the tape he was freaky-deaky the way he moved, and he's long, and he's extremely athletic. We also saw he's extremely fast in a straight line here. But I think it's very important that he came in at 292 pounds because the big question, he has the athletic traits to be a left tackle in the NFL, a starting left tackle. You can see the movement here and the slide. The problem is he needs a lot of technique work, but more importantly, he needs to prove he can put weight on and keep weight on. And he's never played it, any long-term over 300 pounds. So that's a big, big concern.
I mentioned McGlinchey and Nelson, also worth once again celebrating Will Hernandez. I know we talked about him an awful lot, which is why each of you probably didn't pick him as your performer of the day. But it seemed like that was the name I heard each of you say more than anybody else today.
Yeah, sometimes the big winners are also, it can be, you win for different reasons. I think that Will Hernandez really solidified who he is and what he is. And there's a labrum issue that is keeping Isaiah Wynn from being able to lift. I think he had a very small amount of reps and he couldn't keep lifting. We know exactly who and what Will Hernandez was after today. And I think he's locked himself into a first-round pick by the end
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so.
The way he's performed, the way he's checked off all the boxes from the end of the season now. Outstanding Senior Bowl, great combine. We've seen the tape. He's solid. I think at the bottom of the first round, somewhere in the 20s he goes.
Okay, how about the running back position? An impressive group, and certainly, one person in particular put on a show. Just quickly, Saquon Barkley, an official 4.40 40 after the clock. That makes him the fastest 230-plus pound back to run a 40 in the last 15 years.
Ridiculous. People talked about him being the number one prospect in this draft class. I think he confirmed it today. Anytime you have prototypical size, outstanding production, and great character, you deserve to be the top player in the board. You look here, he ran 4.40 40. We saw the jumps. You saw the lifting yesterday. Then you go out and you watch the positional drills. He does everything that you want to see the new school running back do. There you see him with the ball in his hands, but more impressive was the way that he ran routes and caught the football. This is the prototype big back that can do everything that you want. Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Saquon Barkley is going to be the next great one at the position.
Would you take him number one?
Yep. If I needed it.
If you were the Cleveland Browns, would you take him number one? Do you think you could still get your quarterback at number 4 if you took Saquon at number 1?
If I'm the Cleveland Browns, I want to make sure I get a veteran quarterback in free agency. Then I can get Saquon Barkley. And if I feel the need to get a young quarterback, I can get him at 4. But, yeah, Saquon Barkley is the best player in this draft.
Yeah, Money, real quick.
Yeah.
No question, he's number 1.
You would pick him number 1.
If I'm the Cleveland Browns, I'm not passing up on another guy like we did Carson Wentz or Deshaun Watson, who is a for sure guy that can come and change the culture of my building with his work ethic.
So what you're saying, you would take Josh Rosen at number 1? And then
I would take Barkley at 1, but I'd double back at 4 and get Rosen.
What if he ain't there?
Well, if he's not there, then we're going to go another guy. We'll go Florida State safety. There's guys there, and we can still get a quarterback later.
Or Darnold. You can go Sam Darnold.
Well, you could go Sam Darnold if he's there. But I'm assuming because in your boards, Josh Darnold's going before Rosen. So if Rosen's not there, I'm just assuming he's not there as well.
I mean, not to play the Cleveland Browns game too much, but I mean, if you think that there is a tight quarterback grouping, are you comfortable with any of those 3 guys, Darnold, Allen, Rosen, or is there too big of a drop off?
There's a big drop off between
Rosen and Darnold.
Between Darnold and Rosen.
Yeah. And
then Allen is way back here.
You know what? Let me play devil's advocate. I'd take Barkley. I'd probably pick another guy at 4, and then possibly with all those picks, trade back up into the first round and get Lamar Jackson. And then we're going to go spread. Imagine spread with those 2 guys. And Hugh's done it before. We've seen Hugh come out with some very exotic formations on offense and be very creative. Imagine Hugh Jackson being very creative with
I mean, but
Lamar
he passed
Jackson.
on Deshaun. I mean, that's the curious
Well,
part of it. You know, he's passed on Carson.
Did he
he's passed
pass on him, or did the Browns pass on him?
Don't know.
Well, you know, someone has to fall on the sword.
There you go. All right. How about your day one winner from a running back, Lance?
I'm going to look at winners a little differently. I mean, Saquon was obviously the man, and I thought Nick Chubb had a really good one as well. But I'm going to go a little differently. I think Bo Scarborough was actually a winner today because his athletic testing is going to make people go back to the tape and find out what can we do to get this 4.52 40 on this big frame and the 40-inch vertical leap and the 10'9" broad jump. These are explosive verticals and broad jumps. He's a big back with, as you can see right there, he's got a little bit of wiggle, and he's got some ability to cut. He showed an ability to catch the ball. So to me, what he did was maybe he put himself in the conversation in some draft rooms that he wasn't in previously after a big testing day, because he's got the physical traits and measurements. So now I think he was a winner because I think he gets in some conversations, and that could make up an entire round, and that's a lot of money, frankly. A one round is a big deal.
Yep.
I'm going to inject myself here again because
As
if you
you
look at
should.
my frame, you can see how I'm built. I'm someone that could really do
Akram
damage
Wadley.
between the tackles. I do want to mention Kerryon Johnson because he didn't run the 40.
Yeah.
And oftentimes if you don't run the 40, you kind of get forgotten about. But if you watch the drills, I mean, that was someone who looked smooth, who looked decisive, who had explosive cuts, and that's what we saw on the tape at Auburn. And I'm guessing that Kerryon had to be very happy with his day, the way he looked in all those drills and
Absolutely.
skills.
Look, he comes well regarded, highly endorsed by Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn thinks he can do everything. He brought up the comparison to Le'Veon Bell in terms of the way that he can play stylistically. We will see what that 40 time looks like, but anyone who watched him during the season, talking about one of the best bats in the SEC. He's tough, he's physical, he's dynamic and versatile. There's a spot in this league for him, and it's a spot high up on some boards, maybe in the second round.